So I want to show you something pretty cool today, which is going to be how to win a game of Commander on turn 0. And by turn 0, what I mean is basically before the game even begins, it's going to be before you ever reach your first draw step. And there are multiple ways to win on turn 0, but the one we're going to be going over today is one that I featured in my video, EDH versus CEDH. The deck I'm going to be using for demonstration purposes is my Sig River Cutthroat Commander deck here. This combo is not in the deck itself, but the reason I'm using this deck just to demonstrate is because for this combo you need to be playing blue and black, at least those colors. You can be playing more colors, but it needs to have at least blue and black in it. Just before we get into it though, if you'd like to purchase any of the cards you see today, or any gaming related things for that matter, you can get those by heading on over to 401games.ca, and if you use code 8thPlaceDave at the checkout, you'll receive a 10% discount on your purchase of any TCG singles. So in order to get this turn 0 win, we're going to need a very specific set of cards in our opening hand, and because we're going to be playing everything on the first upkeep, we're going to need to be able to play all of our cards at instant speed. So the first card that we're going to need is this one right here, Leyline of Anticipation. Let's see what it does. In this enchantment for 4 mana, it says, if Leyline of Anticipation is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield, and you may cast spells as though they had flash. So this one is going to be very important because not only can we play it for free, it also allows us to play everything else before we ever get to the draw step. So now that we have Leyline in play and the ability to play cards at instant speed, we're going to need a way to generate some mana. The first card that's going to allow us to do that is Mana Crypt. So this costs 0, and we can tap it to add 2 colorless mana to our mana pool. So we'll play Mana Crypt. That's not going to be enough mana though, we're going to need a bit more. So we're going to tap our Mana Crypt. We'll get 2 colorless mana right here, and we're going to spend 1 of it to play Soul Ring. And then we're going to play another 0-cost artifact with Mox Opal right here. It says it has the Metalcraft ability. You can tap it and add 1 mana of any color. Activate this ability only if you control 3 or more artifacts. So we play this for 0. And now we have 3 artifacts in play, so we can tap this to add 1 mana of any color. And I'll just mention that an alternative to playing the Mox Opal could be if we had drawn Gemstone Caverns in our opening hand and we're not the starting player. We could just start the game with Gemstone Caverns in play. We would have to exile a card from our hand, but we only need 6 specific cards for this combo, so we do actually have 1 flexible spot in our opening hand. So if you have Gemstone Caverns instead of Mox Opal, this will work as well. But we're just going to assume that we had Mox Opal in this case. So this gives us access to a pretty decent amount of mana, but it's not going to be quite enough. So with our 1 colorless floating, we're going to now add 1 black with our Mox Opal and spend that black to cast a Dark Ritual, giving us a total of 3 black mana. So let's say this is 3. This still isn't quite enough for what we want to do though, so we're going to tap our Soul Ring and get 2 more colorless, bringing us to a total of 3 colorless and 3 black. This Dark Ritual goes to the graveyard. And then next we're going to spend 5 of our mana, so we'll spend 3 colorless, and 2 black. We'll use this die to represent our 1 remaining black mana. And we're going to cast AdNauseam. So let's take a look at this. What does it say? It's an instant. It says, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. You may repeat this process any number of times. Okay, so we're going to do this quite a few times. We're looking for a very specific set of cards. Fortunately though, since we're playing Commander, we have quite a bit of life to work with. So I've put the cards that we need on top, but obviously these aren't going to be all in this order if you're actually playing this combo in real life, but these are going to be the cards that we're looking for. So we're going to start resolving this AdNauseam. So first off, we need Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, Lotus Petal. I've used Baleful Strix here, but this can be any card which has blue in its mana cost because we need a card to exile to Chrome Mox here. So we're using Baleful Strix in this case. We need some more cards though, so we're going to keep resolving AdNauseam. We also need Laboratory Maniac. This one is a little bit flexible because there are multiple cards with this win condition, but Laboratory Maniac is the one that I used in that video, so we're going to go with this, and then I'll mention the other ones after. We're going to keep resolving AdNauseam. We also need a land which we can exile to Mox Diamond, or discard to Mox Diamond, I should say. And then we also need Demonic Consultation and Sketaxian Probe. So these are going to be the cards which will allow us to win the game. And we're going to take a look at each one specifically now. So these cards actually, with AdNauseam, we haven't really lost that much life by putting these into our hand with AdNauseam, because Chromox costs 0, Mox Diamond costs 0, Lotus Petal costs 0. This one here, Baleful Strix, it costs 2, so we lose 2 life. Laboratory Maniac costs 3. Water Gave, 0. Demonic Consultation is 1. Sketaxian Probe is 1. So that's a total of just what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 life lost. So, you know, not so bad. There's definitely a lot of flex room there in order to go through some more of our deck with our 40 life that we start with. So now we're going to put all of these cards into our hand, and we're going to start playing them out. Remember, we still have 1 black mana floating, which we are going to use. So Chromox, it costs 0, so we can just play that. However, it says it has imprint, and when it enters the battlefield, you can exile a non-artifact, non-land card from your hand, and add 1 mana of any color. Add 1 mana of any of the exiled card's colors. So I just realized something. The card which I'd picked for demonstration purposes for this was Baleful Strix, but that actually does not work because Baleful Strix is an artifact and this has non-artifact. So you'll just need to pick a card which has blue in its mana cost, which is not an artifact. We'll just keep rolling with this, but yeah, Baleful Strix in specific wouldn't work in this case. But we'll exile a card, the Chromox. We'll get that out of here. So now this can tap for a blue. Next, we'll play Mox Diamond, also for 0. This says when it comes into play, choose and discard a card. It has to be a land, or you sacrifice this. And then you can tap this to add 1 mana of any color. Play this ability as mana source. So we've got a land here. We're going to discard this land, so now we can tap our Mox Diamond for any color as well. We're also going to play this Lotus Petal, which costs 0. You can just tap and sack it to add 1 mana of any color. So now this gives us access to a total of 3 more mana. So now what we're going to do is tap and sacrifice the Lotus Petal for any color really, let's just say blue. Tap this for a blue, we'll tap this for a blue, and now we're going to play our Laboratory Maniac. What does Lab Maniac say? It says if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So we play our Laboratory Maniac. We have 1 black floating left. We're going to use that to play this Demonic Consultation. So this is a very old card. Let's take a look at what it says. Name a card. Remove the top 6 cards of your library from the game and reveal the next card to all players. If it is the named card, put it into your hand. If not, remove that card from the game and continue revealing the top card of your library and removing it from the game until the named card appears. So with this, what that's going to allow us to do is basically remove our entire library from the game. So now with Demonic Consultation, all that we need to do is name a card that is not in our deck. And at this point, we get to have some fun, because what you can do here is name a card which can send a message to your opponent. So for the video that I made before, the card that I named was Humility. And I think that's pretty funny because it says that humility is not in your library, so you have no humility. You're just going to win the game this way. I think that's pretty funny, but there are lots of other options too. Let's just take a look at some of the other ones here. You can get really creative with this, but here's a few fun ones that I've found. You could name Arcane Laboratory. This is pretty flavorful if you're using Laboratory Maniac in order to win, because you're winning with a Lab Maniac, and here's the Arcane Laboratory right here, so they kind of fit together, so that could be fun. You could name One with Nothing. It's a pretty fun card in its own right, you know, just a black instant discard your hand, but the name is pretty cool too because you're showing your opponent they're about to become one with nothing. You could name saw it coming, because perhaps your opponent saw it coming when you started to play out this combo. Maybe you could name Garbage Fire. That's always a fun one, I think. Here's a new one. You could name You Are Already Dead. That's definitely sending a message, I think. And another one of my personal favorites, you can name Brushwag, just because this card is amazing. Look at the art on that. How could that not be amazing? But anyway, the point is you need to name a card that is not in your library. So you name whatever, and you resolve Demonic Consultation. So you name that, remove the top 6 cards of your library from the game. 4, 5, 6. And reveal the next card to all players. Well, what do you know? It's not the card that you named. So you keep revealing, and since the card is not in your deck, basically you're going to exile your entire library by resolving Demonic Consultation this way. And now that you have no cards in your library, you're going to use the remaining card that you have left over that you got from AdNauseam, the Sketaxian Probe. Fortunately, you can play this for 0 mana. So it's a sorcery. It says, look at target player's hand, draw a card. So you're going to pay the 2 life for the Phyrexian mana here, cast this, look at opponent's hand, and draw a card. Well, you have no cards left in your library, which means normally you would lose, but since you have Laboratory Maniac in play, you win. Now, this specific version of the combo has been around for quite a while, actually. None of the cards that I've used here are particularly new. I think maybe the newest one is Laboratory Maniac from Innistrad, but there have been some improvements to this combo with cards that have been printed more recently, so I'll just show you a couple of those. I'm not sure if I would say this is so much an improvement, but it's an alternate card that you can use to win instead of Laboratory Maniac. There's this Jace Wielder of Mysteries from War of the Spark. It has the same ability as Laboratory Maniac. It says if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So the thing with this is, it costs 1 more than Laboratory Maniac, 4 instead of 3. However, with this one, you don't need the Sketaxian Probe in order to actually win the game, because Jace can draw you a card itself. You could just +1, target player puts the top 2 cards of the library into the graveyard, then you draw a card. So with Jace, you can win the game that way instead. There is a better option than this also, though, which is a fairly new card out of Theros Beyond Death with Thessas Oracle. What this says is, when Thessas Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. So this gives you 2 devotion right here. You've also got 2 from Leyline of Anticipation. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. So this is better than Laboratory Maniac, kind of for the same reason as Jace, in that you don't need the Sketaxian Probe, or basically a way to draw a card, in order to actually win the game. So it's even better than Jace, though, because it only costs 2, whereas Jace costs 4. So, that's a pretty big difference, right? So these days, Thessas Oracle typically is, the go-to choice over Laboratory Maniac. That's not Laboratory Maniac. Over Laboratory Maniac. But honestly, I'd probably be playing all of these in the deck anyway. Another thing to mention here is you'd typically see something like this in probably CEDH, and in CEDH, free counter spells are quite popular. So somebody might just counter your Thessas Oracle or any one of these cards, maybe your Dark Ritual or something, or your Sketaxian Probe or your Demonic Consultation. So you're going to need a way to protect your combo while you're going off. So you'll want to be playing things like Force of Will, Impact Mitigation, and you would probably find those with your AdNauseam as you're going through your library. And there you have it. That's how you can win the game on turn 0. It's not going to happen very often because you need a very specific set of cards that you've drawn in your opening hand to do it, but when you do it, I bet it's going to feel awesome. And as I mentioned before, there are other ways that you can win the game on turn 0. This is just the specific one that I was looking at for this video, but if you'd like to see others, you could let me know. Maybe I could make some videos for those as well. And also let me know if I forgot anything about this combo, or if there's a way to improve it possibly. I'm sure that there are new cards being printed all the time, so maybe there's a even better version of it now at this point. But anyway though, if you're still watching, thanks for watching. It'd be cool if you can like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. I definitely recommend joining the 8th Place Dave Discord. It's quite active there, and there's a link to that in the video description if you're interested in joining. And also, if you'd like to support the channel, it is possible to do that by becoming a patron on Patreon, and there's a link to that in the video description as well. But otherwise though, I'll talk to you later. This video is brought to you by 401 Games. Visit 401games.ca and use code 8thPlaceDave at the checkout to receive a 10% discount on your purchase of any TCG singles.